can see we are standing below towering species of pine trees here on Burnside Line on the Slessor tract of Simcoe County Forest. And we want to talk about Simcoe County Forest and their history. So when Champlain first visited this area in 1615, he saw the Wyandot people here. They had cultivated 8,000 acres for corn and other vegetables. But around the area, he saw these virgin forests. As that developed, we know 1649, the Wyandot were wiped out by the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois from the south, that killed them all off. And for about 50 years, there were no humans living in this area. And then the Anishinaabe, the Chippewas, Ojibways from the north came down, and the Chippewas have been in this area ever since. But they were mainly hunters and fishermen, hunted off the land. They didn't cut the trees and harvest. So we had virgin forests till about 1800. By about 1820, European settlers were starting to come over. By 1824, the Penetang Road had been established, and now settlers were moving in, clearing the land, and building houses and planting crops. So what they did, they slashed and burned a lot of the virgin forests in this area around 1850. By 1849-50, the trains were up to Collingwood. 1872, they'd reached Aurelia, and it gave means of transportation to transport that timber out. So for about 50 years, from 1850 to about 1900, trees, great quantity of trees were cut, burned, slashed, and just cleared from the land for crops. By 1900, they realized that our crops are gone, all the trees are gone here, although we have houses and settlers and crops, fields, we have little forest left. So it was about that time, about 1919, E.C. Drury, who lived in Crown Hill, became Premier of Ontario. He had a great vision of we should bring back some of these forests. And so he came up with the idea of establishing forest tracts in Simcoe County. So the first forest tract down in Hendrie and Midhurst was established in 1921. And that began the history of Simcoe County Forest. At first they went into those cleared areas that were like deserts and started to plant trees. Mainly pine plantations like red pine and white pine, he felt that that would stimulate the growth. The plantation would grow, and then under that would come the understory of deciduous trees like maples, beech, ash. And so it worked. They planted a great number of forests in that time. Just some of the figures, the first trees were planted in 1922 on the Hendrie tract in May. Between 1922 and 1927, 1,344,600 trees were planted in the Hendrie tract. Between 1927 and 47, tracts were expanded and 10 million trees were planted. By 1948, the barren land had been and the deserts had been restored to now healthy forests. So within those 20-25 years, they had brought back a lot of forests in Simcoe County. By 1950 and 60, land prices began to rise in this area, making it expensive to acquire new land for Simcoe County Forest. So by 1965 to 1995, over 40 million trees were planted through grants, but on private land and not Simcoe County land. Um, Between 1960 and 1980, they Simcoe County did purchase some new tracts of land, but instead of taking barren land like they had before, they purchased healthy forests to supplement the forest that they had reforested. So by 1974, 3,525 acres were added at Remera. And by 1991, the grants to purchase new forest land had stopped. So by 1991, they couldn't expand through grants. And by 1996, Simcoe County decided to sign an agreement with the Minister of Natural Resources, now known as Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, to manage their own lands. So they set up a forestry division down in Midhurst in 1996, hired foresters to actually manage the Simcoe County forest land. 2010, by July, Simcoe County established the Forest Stewardship Council, international certification program promoting strict environmental guidelines and responsible forest management. They got full certification, and what happens is every 5 years that's got to be reviewed for for recertification. But every year it's assessed by the Rainforest Alliance. So every year, the last one was done on September the 27th, 2017. So an annual review of the standards with a full review every 5 years. That's the way we stand today in Simcoe County forests. Today they're used for hunting, for hiking, for recreational, walking, riding your bike, a great use. So they're so important now with the canopy down at its minimum, 38 to 40%. We need these Simcoe County forests, but we need them to be managed for ecological values, wildlife values, human values, and not only timber values. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We have now walked deeper into the Simcoe County tract of the Celesta tract here, and we've come from the highlands, the well-drained highlands where the pine and the maple and dryland species were. Now we've come down this moist slope where there are hemlocks, Canada yew, balsam fir, cedars, eastern white cedars. So it's a wetter moisture area of the whole tract. When I came in here to do winter dendrology, I started to notice the balsam fir. Balsam fir has a wonderful wildlife value to use for food, for moose, for squirrels, birds, the cones, the crossbills, snowshair hare, use them for cover. It was giving great canopy cover, stabilizing the forest. It was growing well together with the maple and the hemlock. And then suddenly, the Simcoe County forester prescribed a cutting here of all the balsam fir in this tract. So as we look around here, we can see large and small balsam firs completely removed from the maples and the hemlocks. But these balsam firs weren't impeding on the growth. You can see large maple trees growing where the balsam fir were cut, and regeneration of saplings underneath. So in my opinion, these balsam fir were doing their work. They were filling in that canopy, working with the hemlocks and the maples, and stabilizing the soil, producing a canopy cover, and, and providing a habitat for wildlife. Balsam fir has so many uses. The essence oil can be used for infections of the skin. The sap can be used for mend glasses, for mounting microscope, fragrances for candles, and so many uses for balsam fir. The trouble is balsam fir doesn't have a great timber value. It's splinters easy. It's usually used for light framing or pulp, not like the hemlock and the maple that are used for the solid building timbers. So unfortunately, balsam fir has been removed from here, and I feel because it didn't have a good timber value. It has great wildlife value, great ecological value, and didn't really have to be removed.